Supply chain suites play a very unique role in certain industries, depending upon the architectural separation required as well as the embeddedness needed in those industries. So, which are the top 10 supply chain suites in 2024? That's what we are going to discuss in this video. So, let's dive in. Hello everyone, my name is M. Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP supply chain and digital transformation consulting firm. We help our clients with digital transformation and supply chain strategy, enterprise technology selection, implementation, as well as change management. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 supply chain suites. When you look at these suites, they are designed for a very unique purpose. Some of these suites are designed for retail industry where they require very unique embeddedness when it comes to your merchandising planning as well as your SNOP. They all need to be tied together, but they don't necessarily require the same embeddedness with your ERP processes. The same thing may go for other industries where you might require this embeddedness more from the engineering supplier collaboration perspective. So each of these suites have very unique role and they all matter in their respective industries. So we published this list in 2023 as well. So you are not going to notice a lot of changes from that perspective. Just to align our expectations, the supply chain suites, there are three major components from the supply chain perspective. That is going to be your planning, network, as well as execution. So these suites cover all of those components fairly well. And we define suites as the systems that are going to contain all of these components, and they are not going to be isolated systems such as your SNOP. Those systems are not going to rank on this particular list. The criteria that we use to compile this list is going to be the product share, the acquisition strategy, focused on supply chain suites, product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology, strategy, as well as investors. So all of these factors we include to compile this list. So now let's look at the list. Now, number 10 on our list is Dassault Systems SCM. And this is part of that IQMS suite. And Dassault Systems has acquired IQMS. So one of the things that you are going to notice with Dassault Systems is they stand out in unique supply chain processes. That is going to be the unique blend of your CAD, PLM, ERP, as well as SNOP, targeting process manufacturing as well as retail. And these industries are very unique. For example, let's say if you look at the combination of your distribution retail as well as your plastics and your chemical manufacturing, these spaces are going to be very common in patches such as your automotive because they are going to have uniqueness of these business models where they are going to do process manufacturing, but they are also going to require the SNOP planning of automotive as well as retail. So again, the retail SNOP centric suites are not going to be as fit for these verticals because you require that process embeddedness from the unit costing perspective. So that's why you would require these processes tightly embedded with ERP as well, along with this being a suite. That's why this is a very unique suite, and the kind of components that it include as part of the suite are going to be very unique as well. So the other strength of this particular suite is comprehensive suite that is going to have the embeddedness with your PLM and PDM. and then it is also going to have compliance tailored to your automotive and plastics. And a lot of these suites are going to be driven by the compliance requirements, because for that they might require joint collaboration. They might need to share data with their suppliers as well as the industry players. So a lot of things are driven by that. The limitations of this particular suite are going to be the technology is not as modern, the consulting ecosystem is going to be limited, as well as the network, the major component of the suite is not going to be part of that. So for the most part, if you are going to buy this suite, then you are relying on your own data, or you need to buy this data from somewhere. So they are going to rely on your data for the SNOP planning for supply chain suites. That matters a lot. So that's going to be a significant limitation. Having said that, Dassault Systems SCM suite is a very strong suite for supply chain planning, and that's why it ranks at number 10 on our list. Now, number 9 on our list is Trimble suite, and Trimble is very unique as well. It focuses on very unique industries, and most of the suites that are present on this particular list are probably not going to be a great fit for those industries, and they are your transportation, construction, as well as agriculture. If you look at the supply chain planning of these industries, they are very unique. Again, some of the suites, such as your Manhattan Blue Yonder, they might claim to be good at transportation, but transportation has a very unique driver compliance process, as well as the kind of embeddedness that it is going to require from the dispatch planning perspective. It's very unique, and that's where Trimble really shines. So the role of Trimble is they are primarily execution focused. They are also going to have a network, but for the most part, they are not going to have the planning component. So again, very unique perspective, and they might require planning component from another player if SNOP planning is going to be part of the architecture. But for the most part, in these industries, the planning does not need to be as embedded, and that's why Trimble does not combine that as part of their supply chain suites. The network is going to be far more important because of the collaboration required, because of the compliance requirements, and that would require network to be part of the architecture. If that is not there, then collaboration may not be as seamless. So the other strength with Trimble is that they are going to have comprehensive suite with telematics as well as fleet management capabilities. Fleet management capabilities are going to be equally important for verticals such as transportation. Even in construction, they are going to own fleets, in agriculture also, and that's why this particular suite is a great fit for those target verticals. Then strong in transportation visibility because of that network component, and 3PL specific planning and data is going to be there just because it is designed for transportation centric verticals. The limitations for Trimble is that it is not ideal for that manufacturing retail sort of value chain because the perspective is different. It is not going to be as diverse. So for example, if you are going to be installing this in business model where they might have both of these business models, or they might be active in M&A cycles, then it might not be as great fit. You might outgrow Trimble very fast. So you might want to keep that in mind, and primarily focused on the transportation execution, even though they now have the network as well. So that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is QAD, and QAD is a very unique suite, just like your Dassault Systems as well, and they combine the CAD, PLM, SNOP, WMS, TMS, as well as ERP. So all of these capabilities are going to be part of the suite. Now, these capabilities could be a great fit for manufacturing-centric organizations, and that's where QAD really shines. For example, let's say if you look at automotive, or you look at life sciences SNOP planning, in those verticals, the way the planning is going to work is it needs to be tightly coupled as part of your ERP processes, engineering processes. If it is not part of that, then you might run into challenges with your transactions. Unlike retail-centric organization where transaction volume is going to be so high that you need to decouple your WMS, TMS, SNOP processes from your ERP processes because the transaction volume requires decoupling of the architecture. So the other strength with QAD is integrated with ERP, just like your Dassault Systems. and comprehensive suite with your SEM and ERP capabilities. The main difference between Dassault and QAD is that QAD is going to be slightly stronger towards discrete manufacturing, while your Dassault systems is going to be slightly stronger with your process manufacturing. And then QAD also is going to have very strong compliance centric capabilities, especially for automotive as well as F&B verticals. The limitations of QAD are going to be very similar. The technology is not going to be as modern. The consulting system is going to be limited, and network is not part of the suite. So again, similar limitations as your Dassault systems. So that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is Manhattan Associates. Even though this is listed as part of the suite, but the suite is very limited. So they are going to have all of the components from the execution perspective, but it is not necessarily the complete suite. For retailer, it is going to be relatively complete. For example, the main component that retailers are going to require is your WMS, TMS, as well as when you look at the retail floor planning or retail centric planning, planograms, all of those components are going to be there as part of Manhattan. So Manhattan is very uniquely focused on retail as well as the warehouse execution scenarios. So if you are a pure play retailer, then Manhattan suite might make sense. Now Manhattan also has very unique features, such as they are integrated with your POS as well as OMS. And for retail centric vertical, this particular embeddedness is going to be tricky, and generally the OMS does not need to be or cannot be integrated with your ERP processes, because of the embeddedness of ERP process might slow down the retail transactions, and retail industries might not be able to afford that. That's why this particular decoupling is generally required, and that's why the retail supply chain suites are uniquely different. So other strengths for Manhattan is that tailored for retail, the warehouse and store visualization, that is probably not going to be there with most of these suites, except probably Blue Yonder. And that's why Manhattan and Blue Yonder compete head to head. And then if you're looking for distributed order management capabilities, Manhattan is probably going to be one of the suite that is going to have that. The other limitations of Manhattan is the external supply chain planning is limited, network is not included, and it's probably not going to be SMB friendly because of the price tag. So that's number 7. Now, number 6 on our list is Kerber or High Jump. Kerber or High Jump targets 3PL centric businesses, so they are also going to be uniquely strong in the execution centric processes, especially your WMS, TMS. But after the acquisition of High Jump with Kerber, now they include a lot more capabilities from the suite perspective. When you look at scenarios such as your freight audit, or you are looking at the way your transportation or 3PL businesses are going to run. So Kerber High Jump makes sense for businesses that are going to be very 3PL centric, or they are going to have 3PL centric business model as part of their business model. For example, let's say if you have retail distribution and they might have 3PL centric component as well, for those Kerber might make sense. Now the pros for Kerber High Jump is strong warehouse management capabilities, integrated TMS, and sometimes that integration is going to be required depending upon how tightly embedded your TMS processes are with WMS, depending upon the kind of scheduling requirements for your industry. Having an isolated TMS might not make sense. That's why a lot of TMS in the market embed themselves with the WMS, even if they are going to be owned by an external vendor. So in this particular case, the TMS is going to be embedded as part of your WMS. And then they are also going to have a strong last mile as well as parcel capabilities, which are generally missing in a lot of different systems. So here, let's say if you're a DSD centric business or DSD business and you are looking for end-to-end supply chain visibility, this is where Kerber might help you. The other limitations for Kerber are going to be the external supply chain capabilities are going to be slightly limited. So when you look at systems such as your Blue Yonder or E2 Open, they are going to have a lot more external supply chain capabilities from the control tower perspective, if that is going to be a need for you, as well as the network is not included, and the planning and collaboration component is probably not going to be there as part of that. So that's number 6. Now, number 5 on our list is Infor Cloud Suite SCM. And this is a very similar suite as your QAD or as your Dassault systems. It takes very similar approach where they are going to combine the CAD, PLM, WMS, ERP, ACM, as well as SNOP. In this particular case, they also have the HCM component embedded, and in some industries, that is going to be uniquely critical as well. So that's very unique about Infor Suite. For example, let's say if you look at automotive verticals, in those, the skill-based scheduling is going to be critical. And in that, you need to identify the resource to be able to schedule, to be able to plan, and that's why HCM processes need to be tightly embedded as part of your process. So again, this makes it a very unique suite for these specific industries. So the strength for Infor Cloud Suite is comprehensive suite in manufacturing, especially discrete manufacturing. That's where they really shine, and it's going to have great visibility platform. There are only very few suites on this list that have their own proprietary network. In the case of Infor, they have their own network as well, and that's why the visibility as well as the data that you are going to get as part of that is going to be better compared to the other suites. And then when you look at these global trade compliance workflows, they are going to be embedded as well as included as part of the suite. In certain industries, for example, aerospace, automotive, when the part compliance process is going to be driven by the country regulation or the regulatory requirements, where you cannot ship certain parts or you need to exclude certain parts to be exported to certain industries, in those scenarios, you require far tighter compliance capabilities with your ERP, WMS, TMS, and that's where Infor Cloud Suite SCM is going to be a great fit. The other limitations for Infor Cloud Suite SCM is the transportation execution component is limited. So even though they are going to have flavors of that inside their WMS, but as such, the execution component is not as great. So you would require an external TMS component if your external supply chain hacking is going to be critical for you, and it is not proven for the enterprise workload. So it's going to be great for upper mid market as well as lower enterprise. But when you look at the workload of those Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, it is not proven yet, not fit for smaller businesses because of the amount of layers that you're going to have. From the data perspective, it might not be as friendly for that. So that's number 5. Now, number 4 on our list is Oracle. And when you look at the Oracle Suite is very interesting suite because it has very similar architecture as your retail suite, but it can do a lot of things from the manufacturing suite perspective as well. So it's very unique on this particular list. So from the Oracle perspective, it's going to have your most of the execution centric components. It's also going to have the planning component, but what it is not going to have is the network. Now, in certain industries, having network as from a third party is not as a big deal, depending upon the transactional embeddedness required. So in the industries or the enterprises where Oracle is really strong, in those patches, because of the regulatory workflows and the traceability required, they would need the execution component to be far tighter than your network. So that's why having network component from a third party might be okay in these cases. But for the most part, the Oracle is going to be a fit for very diverse enterprises where you have very diverse business models. For example, let's say if you're looking for manufacturing plus retail plus many other business model, 3PL as well, for those industries, Oracle is going to be a great fit from the enterprise workload perspective, where the other suites that we have on this list might specialize in one particular business model, one particular process. So that's where Oracle really shines. The pros for Oracle is comprehensive suite with global trade management, a strong planning platform integrated with execution, and pre-integrated with ERP, just like your Dassault systems or QAD. The cons for Oracle is network is not as part of the suite, not SMB friendly, as well as it's going to be expensive. So it's really meant for the enterprises. So that's number 4. Now, Now, number 3 on our list is SAP. And SAP has a very similar positioning as Oracle. With SAP, you are looking at the architecture where either your warehouse architecture needs to be different than your ERP centric locations. So when you are running, let's say, for example, 24/7 warehouse operations, that's where SAP is a better fit. So it can support both of those architectures as part of its suite, depending upon whether you want your WMS TMS to be embedded as part of ERP or you want that architecture to be separately deployed. SAP can support both of those architectures. Some of the systems are going to mandate that just because of the tight embeddedness of the data model. In the case of SAP, they can support both of those. So SAP can support 3PL centric business models plus the other business models. From the enterprise perspective, they are going to be far stronger for the product centric industries. They might not be as strong for the retail centric component, and that's why in retail industries you are going to see Manhattan, Blue Yonder deployed along with SAP. They are designed for those thick, expensive transactions. That's where SAP really shines because their processes are going to be tightly embedded, just like your QAD or Dassault systems with your ERP processes, then keeping it standalone. Retail centric supply chain suites are going to be far more relevant in those scenarios if you are deploying it for retail. But SAP is a great fit for very diverse enterprise centric processes where you have many different business models and the transaction volume is so high that you require the total MRP planning for all of the workloads, but your retail planning needs to be as part of your retail suites. So the other strengths for SAP is comprehensive suite with global trade management. When you are going to have those compliance processes, that's where SAP makes sense. It has a strong planning platform integrated with your execution and pre-integrated with ERP. So these are some of the strengths. The limitations with SAP is that network is not part of the suite, not SMB friendly as well as expensive. Very similar limitations as your Oracle. So that's number 3. Now, number 2 on our list is Blue Yonder. And Blue Yonder is a very similar suite as your Manhattan. They are designed for very retail centric planning, retail centric architecture, where you are going to have all of the components that need to be tightly integrated to be able to capture the state of the inventory allocation. All of these things are going to reside in your retail supply chain as opposed to residing inside ERP. So in this particular architecture, the role of ERP is substantially limited. The role of ERP becomes just the financial ledger for the retail centric industries. But if you are going to have, let's say, the distribution component or the manufacturing component, because of the unit costing requirement or the cost tracking requirement, you would require your MRP processes. So if you are a pure play retailer, then Blue Yonder makes sense. If you are going to have the combination of business models, that's where you might struggle with your Blue Yonder a little bit. But for pure play retailers, when you are looking at floor planning, you are looking at merchandising planning, workforce planning from the retailer perspective, that's where Blue Yonder really shines. It is going to have at least 2 components, which is going to be your supply chain planning from the internal external perspective. It has control tower capabilities. All of the execution components that are going to be relevant from the retail perspective. The only thing which is going to be missing as part of your Blue Yonder is that they don't have their own proprietary network. They rely on their partners to provide that, and because of that, they are not going to have as much control on their network, as well as they might not have as rich insights as the other suites. And because of that, let's say if you're looking for AI and ML capabilities, their capabilities might not be as strong because AI ML requires far more control on the data as well as far more data that you are going to be needing. So that is the only cons that is with Blue Yonder, but it is probably one of the strongest suite for retail centric business models. The other strengths for Blue Yonder is ability to handle very large number of SKUs, and the planning for retail is very unique. When you look at the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 workload, when you are going to have millions and millions of SKU and location combination, and these workloads need to run in parallel, that's where a lot of systems struggle, and you require that transactional isolation for these planning workloads. Otherwise, it's probably not going to work, and that's where Blue Yonder really shines, and it's going to have external supply chain capabilities as well. That's a huge strength for Blue Yonder. The limitations for Blue Yonder is ERP is not included as part of the suite. So it is really meant for pure play retail centric business models, or when you are going to have one suite that is going to do retail centric component while utilizing ERP for the other cost centric business models or the transactions. The other limitations for Blue Yonder is also it's not SMB friendly. It's supposed to be an enterprise system. So that's number two. Now, number one on our list is E2 Open. And the reason why E2 Open is number one is because it has all of those components equally represented as part of your suite, which is going to be your planning, execution, as well as network. They have their own proprietary network. Very few systems on this list are going to have their own network. They also take a very unique approach for certain verticals where the collaboration planning is very important. So, for example, let's say if you look at systems such as your Dassault systems or you look at QAD, in those cases, the supplier collaboration was very critical for the joint planning. Even your marketing processes are going to require this planning from the trade promotion planning perspective or rebates. All of those requires a lot of data exchange, the process collaboration, and that's why E2 Open is a great fit for all of those business models, retail as well as manufacturing, where collaboration is going to be a key. So the other strength for E2 Open is if the business is going to be channel marketing driven, then E2 Open is a great fit. And global compliance as well as e-invoicing scenarios, if you are going to have, then E2 Open is going to be a great fit as well. In those scenarios, you might not require another system and you might not have as many data silos as part of your architecture. E2 Open is going to cover for all of those capabilities where you are going to require collaboration with your vendors, suppliers, or carriers. They are going to support all of those processes. The limitations of E2 Open is that the ERP is not included. So even this is going to be very retail focused suite, or the retail side of the processes it is going to do. The rest of the processes you still have to keep inside your ERP. So inventory state is probably going to be in two different systems. So that's why you need to define the architecture and roles and responsibilities, and it becomes trickier if your business model is going to have both of those components. It is not going to be SMB friendly, and the ecosystem is going to be limited as well. So finding consultants in their network might be trickier at this point of time. So for the most part, you are relying on E2 Open's professional services. Having said that, E2 Open is a great system, great suite. So that's number one. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to include the link of a detailed article that is going to have much deeper analysis. So you might want to check that. We publish these videos on a weekly basis. So you might want to check our YouTube channel as well as subscribe if you like. And then this podcast is also available in the audio form on Google, Spotify, as well as Apple. So you might want to head there and subscribe. And if you have not checked our digital transformation report for 2024, we are going to include the link of that as well. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.